Let's dip back into the mailbag. We'll do a quick roster breakdown. We'll give a little love to Derrick White. And Jeff Van Gundy is a Celtics employee. Talk about it all right now on the Locked On Celtics podcast.
Be ever ready. Recognize the city of champs. Boston, baby, we do what you can't. Locked on number 18, Tatum and Browns, J-team, step back. We gon' wet that and slay teams. Of course the Celtics, who else could it be? Screaming like KG with the Larry O.B. Karalis above average, assessing the team status. Best daily pod, no cap, salary matching. Clutch like Bird the DJ, keep John on replay. Prime time, dapping up the truth on the sideline. Raining J's, how it started, raising banners, how we finished. Locked on Celtics pod, home of the winners. B.
Hey there, welcome back to the Locked On Celtics podcast, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. And I'm here for you every Monday through Friday with a free, fresh podcast. So make sure you are subscribed wherever podcasts exist, even on YouTube. Get into that comment section. Let me know what you think. I'm John Karalis. I used to play a long time ago. Now I'm a beat writer covering the Celtics for Boston Sports Journal. Today, it's a mailbag. Later on, we'll get into a little bit of, some fun. So we'll talk about the departed Celtics. We'll get into some love for Derrick White, Jayson Tatum on the defensive side, and Jeff Van Gundy, now a Celtics employee. How about that? Today's show is brought to you by Gametime. Gametime is a great app for you to get last-minute tickets. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA for $20 off your first purchase. I figured it was a little bit of a quiet weekend. They practiced on Saturday, nothing on Sunday. This was a good time to get another mailbag in with some questions about the team as they're currently constituted. So let's just dive in. Adam says, can you break down the roster and how many spots there are? Will the Celtics have to cut one or two of these guys? Do they need to choose between Jase Medical and Banton, Stevens or Brissett? Can they carry all of them? So let's do a quick breakdown. The Celtics have two-way players, Neemias Queta, J.D. Davison, and Jay Scrubb. Jay Scrubb tore his ACL. He will not be a two-way player for much longer, but obviously he'll get a chance to rehab and all of that stuff. They were really excited about Jay Scrubb. I thought they were excited to get him into Maine and into that system. It's a shame that he tore his ACL, but they'll move somebody to that two-way spot, or they'll sign somebody to that two-way spot. So just quickly running down the alphabetically, the roster, the non-two-way guys, the regular guys: Delano Banton, O'Shea Brissett, Jaylen Brown, Sam Hauser, Drew Holiday, Al Horford, Luke Kornet, Jase Medical, Kristaps Porzingis, Peyton Pritchard, Lamar Stevens, DJ Stewart, Jayson Tatum, Jordan Walsh, Derrick White. And then in there somewhere is Wenyen Gabriel. So what's that? 17 guys at this point. So they need to get down to 15 at the very least. So DJ Stewart is going to get waived. He's on the Exhibit 10 contract, so he'll get waived. He'll go to the main red clause. That leaves one too many guys, and an interesting decision for them to make because Wenyen Gabriel is kind of on the fringes right now. And, he's had 4 years of experience, which is, interesting. And he's, he can get some minutes if they need to in an emergency and be okay. I think based on his NBA experience, he can be okay. But in his preseason experience for Boston, I think his first game, he was too hyped. And then he settled down a little bit. If they're going to keep him, somebody's going to have to go. So there is an outside chance that they could play a little roster game. And this is just me guessing. They can play a little roster game. They can cut Jay Scrubb. They can put Delano Banton on a two-way. Gabriel has been in the league for 4 years. He's not eligible for a two-way. They could, if they're planning on making a move later, they could put Banton on a two-way, and because he's on a non-guaranteed deal, so they could cut him, sign him to a two-way deal, and then say, hey, later on in the season, we are going to make a move, and we're going to do a 2-for-1, and when we do that, we'll upgrade you back to the full contract. I don't know. I mean, he also has to agree to that because they'll have to cut him to sign him to the two-way deal. They can't just convert him, and he has to agree to that. So if they cut him, he can be like, I'm out. That's just a wild guess. I don't even know. Like, that's a wild idea. There could be someone they could just cut Wenyen Gabriel. They could cut one of O'Shea Brissett or Lamar Stevens. There's a little bit of duplication there, and maybe they decide they'd rather have one over the other. That's a possibility, in which case Brissett has the guaranteed contract. It would be Stevens that's on his way out. And he was the latest, I think he was the latest signing that they made. So I feel like he would be the guy that that got axed in that situation. They could cut one of the other guys. Sri Mikhailuk does not have a guaranteed deal, but I think given his performance in the preseason, you probably keep him around. So obviously the guys who are all set here, just going again down the alphabetical roster that I'm looking at. Jaylen is all set. Hauser's all set. Holiday, Horford, Cornette is all set right now. For now, I think Pritchard is definitely all set. That's 6. Where are we going from there? Tatum is obviously all set. That's 7. I feel confident saying Jayson Tatum is all set. Jordan Walsh is all set. That's 8. So beyond that, I like Sri Mikhailuk. That would be 9. Derrick White. Did I say Derrick White? That's 10. From there, there's 5 more spots, and I think they could just play a few more games with those spots. So bottom line here is they have to make a decision on one player. They could play a little bit of a game if Delano Banton is on board. He's the only guy they could play that game with. If they don't, and I think it's a long shot that they do, the more I think about it, then somebody is going to go, and my guess it would be Lamar Stevens might be the most likely, if it's not Wenyen Gabriel. Like, Wenyen Gabriel's probably the 15th on the chart, but if they like him and they want to develop him and they think he could be a longer term fit, then they might just say, sorry, Lamar Stevens. I'm not 100% sure exactly where this goes. The problem is that we haven't seen, as I said in the last podcast, we haven't seen enough of these guys in the situation that they're really going to be in. So it's hard for me to evaluate. This leads me into Malachi's question. Any chance Blake Griffin is going to come back? He could provide good depth at power forward. There is obviously a chance. They don't have to keep all these guys. They can cut 2 guys, go into the season with 14 on the roster. You can bring in Blake probably closer to January if he wants to just kind of play half a season. I'm leaning towards he's not coming back. I'm not ruling it out, but I'm leaning towards he's not coming back. I think at this point, Blake understands that he would want to be part of a team from the beginning, but maybe he's trying to kind of like straddle the home with the family and trying to join a team as a kind of like a post-trade deadline. Let's kind of see how things shake out type of signing. So I'd say the odds are that he's not coming back, but I think it's possible. Nathan says, am I crazy to think the Celtics' best offseason move is bringing in Jeff Van Gundy? The guy knows basketball. He can help them at all levels. Just shows how all in the Celtics brass is for this season. Jeff Van Gundy is a Celtics employee. I'm going to talk about that next. First, today's show is brought to you by our friends at Gametime. Gametime is a great app that's going to help you get those last-minute tickets. Sometimes, I know me and my wife, it's a Saturday, and we're like, what do you feel like doing? And you can just scroll through the Gametime app and be like, hey, you want get these last-minute theater tickets. You want to get these last-minute comedy show tickets, this last-minute sports deal. Maybe around here, it's a lot of minor league sports, the Providence Bruins. I went to the Providence Bruins game the other day. That was fun. Gametime is the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You can see the view from your seat before you buy, so you know exactly what you're going to get. All-in prices show your total up front, so you know you're getting a great deal. You're not going to get smacked with fees at the end. You can buy tickets in seconds with just 2 taps. Find exclusive flash deals, sponsored deals, tickets for all the sports, the comedy, the theater, all you want. And with zone deals, you can pick the section, and Gametime picks the seats for an average of an 18% savings. That's awesome. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONNBA. You get $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNBA, locked, L-O-C-K-E-D, on NBA for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. We're back to daily. We're Monday through Friday. If you're new to the podcast, get that subscribe button. This podcast is free. It's available everywhere. And you even get bonus podcasts. If there's a game on a Friday night or a Saturday night, bonus podcasts. So some weeks you're going to get 6. Some weeks you might get 7 podcasts. Jeff Van Gundy is officially a Celtics employee. The Celtics are so sneaky because they hired Jeff Van Gundy a while ago. And I think someone just happened to look at their coaching staff page on their website, and they saw special consultant Jeff Van Gundy listed. So they weren't hiding it per se, but they never announced that Jeff Van Gundy has been hired. So someone, I think, might have posted it on Reddit or on Twitter or something, and then it got out there. And then, the rest of us, I never check the coaching page. Well, why would I do that? I already know who the assistant coaches are. So anyway, they kind of snuck that by us, and we talked to Joe Mazzulla on Saturday. Just basically, here's his deal. He's a special consultant to the team, not just the coaching staff, to Brad Stevens, to the main Celtics. I keep wanting to say Maine Red Claws, but I'm getting better at that. He's across the board, the entire basketball operations. So basically, he gets fired from ESPN. They're in that big cost-cutting whatever. So they let him go. The Celtics said, hey, Jeff's available. They spent this summer focusing on experience. They want to bring in as many experienced guys as possible. And so they brought in Van Gundy as a consultant. So he's not going to be on the bench during games. He will be in the building sometimes during games. And I'm sure now that the cat's out of the bag, maybe one of these days he'll be at the game and they'll give him to us so we can hear from him about what his role has been and how he feels and all that stuff. But basically, he's going to be in coaches' meetings. And when he's there, remember, it's when he's there, because he's not going to be there all the time. He's a consultant. He'll be with Brad Stevens, consulting Brad Stevens on moves, on potential moves. He's a guy with a ton of experience. He's a guy he's seen the league. And not only, you might think like, oh man, he's been out of the league for, however long doing broadcasting, but every time those guys do a game, they get to sit down with the coaches and have like a little kind of private conversation with the coaches. They're around. They get to talk to guys. They have a good sense of who guys are. And also Jeff Van Gundy has done a lot of Team USA stuff. So he has a good sense of, and he does the lower level Team USA. I forget if it was under 19 or he does like other stuff with Team USA. So he has a good sense of some of the up and coming guys, some of the young guys that might be cheap and guys who might be able to fill a spot on the roster. He could be a great resource for young up and coming talent that might otherwise go under the radar. And maybe he can say to Brad Stevens, to Joe Mazzulla, hey, you got an open roster spot? You got an open two-way spot? This guy, I coached him. He was great. The exact kind of worker that you want, the exact kind of player that you want, you should bring him in. Could be a way. But he could also advise on some of the coaching tricks that he's learned, some of anything. So he is a valuable resource for the Celtics, but he's not there to threaten anybody's job. He's not there because somebody doesn't trust somebody. It's Jeff Van Gundy is a guy who knows the game, who has a ton of experience, and I think basically everybody in the organization gets to pick his brain. But he has some intimate knowledge along the game of basketball, the channels that feed into the NBA, where he can give the Celtics some tips, especially in this spot where they need cheap, motivated, talented players. So I think that'll be a very good role for him for however long it lasts. Cody asks, how do you feel about Tatum taking on more defensive roles starting at power forward next to Porzingis? I'd like to see Tatum go for all defense instead of the scoring record. Well, that's not going to happen. Let's just set our expectations. That's not going to happen. Tatum is a scorer. He wants to be a scorer. He's going to be a scorer, but he can give more on the defensive end. I like the idea of Tatum at the 4. Not that there's a ton of specific positions anymore. You got your point guards, your ball handlers, you got your bigs, your Porzingis 7-3 guys, and then you got your wings. And the wings incorporates basically everybody, and that's like 3 positions. So you get your ball handlers, your bigs, and your wings. And the wings can play 2, 3, 4. In today's NBA, how many power forwards? You're not going up against Charles Barkley and Karl Malone anymore. Your power forwards are Evan Mobley, right? So Tatum is basically Evan Mobley's size. So those, you're guarding Scotty Barnes. You're guarding big, thin guys. Every once in a while, you get a bigger power forward, but that's, Victor Wembanyama plays power forward. That's going to be an interesting matchup for whomever. But point is, Tatum can guard basically 1 through 5 in the NBA. I like the idea of him. Like, he has to give more on the defensive end. He cannot get into the habit of, hey, I'm an elite scorer, I'm an MVP candidate. No one cares about defense on the MVP candidate, so I'm going to stop playing defense so I can focus more on my offense. He can't do that. That's not a championship mentality. I think he can be a special player on both ends, and he has been a lot of times. But at the end of last year, I think he did let some of that slip. The Celtics let some of that slip in general. They're focusing a lot on that this season and this preseason. So, yeah, I think Tatum taking on a bigger defensive role and starting him at the 4 with White and Holiday and obviously Jaylen and Porzingis, that I like that starting lineup. I'm not saying I don't like the Al Horford starting lineup with one of those 2 guards coming off the bench. That also has a lot of merit. So can't lose either way, but I like that lineup with Tatum at the 4. I think he can handle the job. I personally would like to see it. Adam asks, should Derrick White be getting more credit for being the most flexible guy on the team, from starting point guard to maybe bench player? No one is talking about whether he is upset or whatever, because he's going to show up, no ego. Derrick White is awesome. Honestly, one of the best moves that Brad has made. Porzingis is a good move. Holiday is a good move. But considering that the Celtics didn't have to give up much, I mean, there's a couple of draft picks potentially. There's a swap potentially down the road, but no one cares about that. Derrick White has been awesome. He has been exactly what the Celtics have wanted, exactly what they've needed. I think there's almost impossible for him to get the credit that he deserves, because he does deserve so much for doing everything on the ball, off the ball, everything. It's just something that he could be, every year we talk about, especially, people like me, we love to say things like, like we're really being nuanced. Jayson Tatum's the best player on the team, but Derrick White might be the most important player on this team. We love to say things like that. I love to say things like that. And I'm saying that right now, that Derrick White could be the most important player on this team in a lot of ways. He does so much. The way he defends, the way he scores, his ability to hit floaters makes the alley-oops with Kristaps Porzingis unguardable. So running pick and roll with him and Porzingis, gonna score all the time. They're gonna have to like just dare Derrick White. Hey, we're gonna dare you to make the floaters. We're gonna have to dare you to make the floaters because everything else, they don't have a better option. And he's gonna hit those floaters, and then teams are gonna be like, I don't know what to do. So yeah, Derrick White, super, super important. Got a question about how the shots will be distributed, the guys who left this season, how they would be as a starting five, and me doing commentating on games. Sure. We'll talk about that in just a second. First, today's show is brought to you by Betterhelp. Now, I am a big proponent of therapy. I have been through therapy myself. I think that everybody, from just getting stuff off your chest to maybe dealing with some really deep-rooted things that maybe you haven't dealt with, is valuable. And look, it's changed my life and it's made me a better person. So I think therapy can help everybody. So if you're thinking about starting therapy, you can give BetterHelp a try. It's all entirely online. It's convenient. It's flexible. It's suited to your schedule. You're not stuck with somebody in your area. You can go online and you can find a licensed therapist. And the most important thing, and the best part about BetterHelp is if you don't click with your therapist, it can be discouraging, but they make it easy. You don't click, you just go to somebody else. And because it's all online, it's super easy. And you can find the person that's best suited for you. You fill out a brief questionnaire, you get matched with your licensed therapist, switch for no additional charge. It's worth trying. It's customizable to your life. So check it out. Make your brain your friend with BetterHelp. Visit betterhelp.com/lockedonnba to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedonnba. Thank you for making Locked On Celtics your first listen every day. Go check out Locked On NBA, please. I host on Wednesdays, rotating hosts all week long. We got the league covered, the big stories, the fun stories. We cover the league like nobody else on the Locked On NBA podcast. So make sure you are subscribed. Wherever you found Locked On Celtics, you find Locked On NBA. Let's wrap up this mailbag here and get into Juan's question about, do you think the offense will be distributed between the best 5 or 6 players? And we have the average of Jayson Tatum decrease this season. Will Tatum and Browns numbers go down as the offense is split between, just talking about Derrick White, Drew Holiday is going to score, Kristaps Porzingis is going to score, Al Horford is going to score. 6 guys are going to score points. Now, Al will probably gladly give up a bunch of his buckets. He probably doesn't give a damn about how many buckets he scores. He's done with his contracts. If he signs another extension or another contract, it's going to be for not much. So he doesn't care. His numbers don't matter. He wants the ring. Kristaps Porzingis said at practice on Saturday, he's like, hey, no one here cares about their numbers. All they care about is winning. Okay, that's probably somewhat true, if not completely true. These guys have all got their money. Remember, the stages of being an NBA player. Number 1, you want to prove yourself. Number 2, you want to get that big contract. Number 3, you want to win a championship. You always want to win, but the first 2 stages, guys want to win their own way. When you get to that big contract, guys become more flexible about, all right, fine, maybe I have to sacrifice a little bit. So does Tatum's scoring go down a little? Maybe. Jaylen's go down a little bit? Maybe. They can do less, distribute more. They'll both still benefit. If the Celtics win 60 games and their numbers are like a tick down, but their assists are up, their plus minus is up, they'll be viewed as, hey, they sacrificed for the team. They are still all NBA players. They'll both still make all NBA. Jayson's going to still get his Supermax contract. That's done. That's a done deal. So that's all happening. So Porzingis has his extension. Now, Derrick White has extension talks coming up, or they're in the process of it. I don't think his scoring numbers going down are going to be something that's used against them. I mean, Brad Stevens understands, like the former coach gets it. So is it possible that the points per game for Tatum and Brown will, go from here to like here? Sure. It's up to those guys how much of the offense they want to take. I personally, if I were them, I would be thrilled to be like, you know what? I don't have to do it all. So Jaylen's got his big deal. Tatum's getting his big deal. Let's spread the wealth a little bit. You can do it now and win your 2 championships, win this year, win next year. And then when the team gets too expensive and who knows what the hell happens where everybody goes, then you can go back to scoring. But for now, sure, I can see it. Christoph asks, how many NBA teams with a starting 5 with the recently departed Celtics be better than? Smart as your point guard, so Smart and Brogdon in the backcourt, Grant, Danilo Gallinari, and Robert Williams as your 5. That's a pretty decent starting lineup. The problem is scoring is going to be a little tough. They don't have the go-to scorer, but for a starting lineup, Smart and Brogdon, that's not bad. Brogdon will probably do a bulk of the scoring there. Grant will hit some shots. Gallinari will hit some shots. Rob will be over there catching lob. I would say this team would maybe compete in the play-in tournament. I mean, obviously there's a bench and all of that stuff, but that starting 5, could they make it to the 10th seed? Could they get 10? I think that starting 5 could get 10, and maybe that they lose in the first round of the play-in tournament. Do they make it through the play-in tournament? Obviously, you have the risk of injury to at least 4 of those guys. Grant's going to be solid, but Smart's probably going to get hurt. He's been dealing with an ab issue to start this season. Brogdon's an injury risk. Gallinari's, old and an injury risk. Rob has his issues. So, but that team could compete for the Eastern Conference play-in. Western Conference would be a little tougher, but Eastern Conference, I would say that team could be 10. Jordan, we'll wrap it up here, says, I would pay a hefty monthly fee to watch games with you commenting. Just saying. Let's put that energy out into the world. Get me onto the NBC Sports Boston broadcast. I appreciate that, Jordan. I would love to be on a broadcast. I would love to talk about the game and be part of, in-game analysis. It's a hard job. It's hard to process things right away. There's a reason why former NBA players do this job a lot, and you don't go to somebody like me. And the reason is Brian Scalabrine can process what he's seeing on the floor probably 10 times faster than I could, 20 times, 50 times, 100 times, whatever the number is. He can see it. He can recognize it because he's done it. He's been through it. He sees it. He recognizes it. Sometimes I can recognize, and, in that spot with a TV monitor in front of me and, with the proper focus of being on the broadcast, I could pick some things up and I could get through. But NBA players obviously have that depth of knowledge where they can see it, they can pick it out, and then they know right away, these are the things you got to do in the NBA to make this work, to counterbalance what the other team is doing, to whatever it is. So that's why NBA guys are so great at doing like color commentary. Now, I have a fair amount of confidence in myself. I feel like I see the game pretty well, and I feel like I could do a passable job as a color commentator. I will prefer to not have the immediate pressure of seeing things as they happen, like everything that happened right away. I, like most of us writers, tend to need a second watch through the game. In the game, it's very easy to kind of be caught up in, okay, watching the ball, watching a certain matchup, especially in the arena because of the angle that I have. At home, it's a little bit better because I get to kind of like widen my focus and see the whole floor and recognize things. And that's why I feel more confident about how I would do as a color guy. But in the arena, watching like the games and not having the monitor directly in front of me, you tend to miss things, especially the angle that I have. I don't see everything that's happening off the ball. I'm watching the arena, the screen a lot of times so I can try to get a sense of the whole floor. They're not going to put me in the seats that I want to be in to watch the game because those are premium seats halfway up the arena. Top of the lower loge, right at center court, is a perfect place to sit so you can see everything. So I need a second watch the next day. Yeah, I'll wake up, I'll make my coffee, I'll feed the dogs, and I'll sit and I'll turn on the game and go through it. Because I know what's happening, I'm not caught up. Like I know, I remember this is where they scored. Or I remember this was the alley-oop. Oh yeah, this was the turnover. I remember those things coming up in the games, but so I can watch more off ball. I can watch a specific guy. I can stop and rewind and watch things again. Hey, what happened here? Go back. Oh, that was an interesting thing. Back. Oh, they tried this. Oh, this is an interesting little wrinkle. Back. Watch it 4, 5, 6 times. Try to pick it apart. But a lot of these guys, like I was always amazed by Brad Stevens. After a game, he'd talk about these things. You're like, how do you remember all of this stuff as it happened? And you pick it. I'll end with this. NBA players, NBA coaches, assistant coaches, all those people who are in the league, their brains are like supercomputers. You listen to them talk, and I am mesmerized. I was always mesmerized by Marcus Smart talking about defense and all of that. So you listen to him talk in depth. You listen to all these guys talk in depth about the nuance. Well, if I do this, if I'm shading this way, if I have my body here, I can do this. Like you hear about Drew Holiday kind of like guiding people over. So he using his body to get on a guy's hip to force him a certain way off the screen so he's not going where he wants. It's just like fascinating to me, all the little things. And they do it so they're such supercomputer brains, all of them, all of the players, most of the players, probably a couple who don't last very long because they're not, but most of the players, like the elite player, Jayson Tatum, Jaylen Brown, those guys see things on the floor. You're like, whoa, LeBron, forget it. So I'm just so constantly amazed by the level of intelligence and reaction and quick thinking and coordination. It's so amazing. So I do thank you, Jordan. I would love to do it. I think I would love to do it kind of to see how bad I am at it, because I feel confident. I feel super confident in myself that I could do it. But I also would be like, afterwards, I'd be like, oh my God, that was 100 times harder than I thought it would be. I completely suck at it. Get Scal back in the seat. He can have the job. I'm going to go back to rewatching games on my couch with a coffee and a dog on my lap. So that's it. Thank you for the questions. JohnKaralis.com/mailbag. Keep submitting your questions. JohnKaralis.com/mailbag. Keep submitting your questions. That's the only way to get to me. Every once in a while, I'll do a mailbag. Like I'll probably do one next week again, because the Celtics keep having like this 5 days off. They have 5 days off again after their last 2 preseason games before they start the regular season. So might do one more mailbag Monday, and then it'll be a little bit more sporadic. So JohnKaralis.com/mailbag. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for taking me along with you every day, Monday through Friday. If you're a regular listener, if you're one of these everydayers who's with me Monday through Friday, Share the podcast, spread the word, tell your friends, tell everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On Celtics podcast. It's here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.